Are you still mowing your yard? I'm sorry. This is the AirSeekers TRON Robotic Lawnmower. It will mow up to 2,400 square meters with a recommended size of 1,000 square meters. What does that even mean? Well, if you look at an acre, I believe it's like 44,000 square feet. So 1,000 square meters equates to right around 10,000 square feet, which equates to about a quarter of an acre. And your typical suburban lot in America is about 10,000 square feet. And if you're living in urban areas, then you're looking at somewhere between 1,500 and 5,000 square feet. In fact, the average for suburban areas is yard sizes between 5,000 and 10,000. So 10,000 is on the high side. So quarter acre is a, quote, big lot for your typical suburb lawn sizes. Now, let's not waste any time. Let's dive right into the details of this. We're actually going to show us setting this up as well as using it. Then we'll come back and talk about pricing as well as our recommendations. So this is the AirSeekers TRON Robot Mower. It is an RTK mower, so it uses an antenna as well as satellites and the camera system to be able to stay on track and go where it needs to go or go where you tell it to go by building a map. There is no boundary wires, or there are no boundary wires that you have to bury or anything like that. Once you set up the antenna, get a good clear signal on it, then pretty much that's all the settings you need to do other than building your actual lawn. This right here is going to mount on top of the charging station there. The mower is actually going to see this charging station out in the yard and back up into it and actually charge automatically. This is the top of the RTK antenna. So we've got our two poles here. They came out of the packaging that we're going to put those together, mount this on top of there, use these stakes to mount that in the yard in a nice area, maybe close to a house or a building or wherever you want to park this. The antenna does need to be at least 6 feet away from any buildings and not under any trees. And basically, you'll get a clear signal. I believe a solid green light here, letting you know that you're in a good spot. And once you find that, you can mount it there and you should be good to go. Let's take a closer look at this mower. Then we'll take this out. We'll get this set up and get mowing right away. Let's go ahead and get the screws put into this base station. So this is just going to sit just like that on here. And then you've got a few screws to run through the bottom. By the way, before we talk about the mower, you do get a quick start guide, very simple and easy to go through this. And it all makes pretty good sense. I mean, you can scan the QR code and actually download the app. And from the app, it'll walk you through this, or you can use this big poster card to go through here, or you can get more nitty-gritty from the actual manual. But pretty simple installation tips. But like I said, you'll see the app will walk you right through it as well. So here the mower, just to give you an idea of the size of this, about 15 inches tall, about 14 inches tall in the back. Same thing, about camera height is going to be about 14 inches tall. Length of the mower is a little over 28 inches, maybe closer, maybe somewhere around 29 inches. So between 28 and 29 inches. These omnidirectional wheels are pretty cool. They will actually turn as well as each one of these turn as well. So what that enables us to do is use the rear wheels to navigate this thing and turn it. And so those wheels will stay at the angles like that. And that's on purpose. I believe it's 30 degrees if I'm not mistaken. And there's a lot of engineering gone into that. But basically they're called omnidirectional wheels. And it allows us to really steer without a lot of friction on the front end. So you're not digging up grass, things like that. Get nice traction here from the rear wheels. And they stand about 9 inches tall. Big rubber grippers on here. Rubber knobbies, if you will, to be able to grab and not tear up your grass, if you will. Here on the top, I have a couple of things going on. Here's the camera up here on the top. There's also camera in the rear. We've got 3 buttons here. Again, walk you through that on the manual or on the app to tell you what those are. Basically, the home button will send it back to the charger. The play button is going to basically tell it to say go or go mow. Big stop button, pretty obvious. It's just going to stop it in its tracks, and then you have to actually, reset it, probably like a home and OK, something like that. This right here is a rain gauge, or a rain meter, if you will. And what it's going to do, it's going to sense the rain. And if you have it in the app to say, you know what, I don't want it mowing in the rain, it will actually return home or return to the charger and charge, and wait for that rain to stop before it goes back out. So that's what that is right there. Once it makes connectivity with the water that's in that little bitty tray right there, then it's going to sense that and send it back to the charger. We'll take a look here at the business end, or the business side of the mower, and that's underneath the deck here. And by the way, your instructions may tell you to install this mud guard. Ours was already on here, so this may come separate with some screws on it, but ours actually had it already installed. One of the really cool things about this mower that's different than many robotic mowers is the fact that this one actually does mulching. And let me tell you how, and the reason it does it so well. And that is, not just does it mulch it up in here, but it's actually got a separate fan above this blade deck that actually circulates air in here to keep the grass clippings in here, so it continues to mulch those clippings. And you'll also notice, if you're used to seeing robotic mowers, usually those mower blades are about, I don't know, 3/4 that size, maybe even 50% this size. So these are a lot longer. Just 3 blades on here, and you can see how they swivel, much like if you know how a bush hog works, the same way. And the reason is, as this spins, it's going to sling those blades outward. However, once it hits something, it's just going to swing back around, and it's not going to do a lot of damage to it. And as you can see, when I swing this out, there's actually blades on the inside here too, or up above that. So the mulching effect is happening not only at this level, but also above it as well. And you also see little blades here, and that's the fan there above this disc that, again, is circulating that air. So a big difference here on the AirSeekers TRON mower than the majority of your robot mowers that are out there. And by the way, the size of this disc, or cutting area, that's going to be probably about 9 inches. So once those blades are out, I would call that probably a 9-inch cut, between 8 and 9 inches. But again, this thing's going to set up, and you're going to see it mowing or not see it mowing continually without you having to have any intervention whatsoever. You can see here on the front of the mower, again, the cameras here, as well as the radar system that's going to be constantly looking at what's going on the lawn. By the way, be sure to take your covers off of here. Help it see just a little bit better. But this thing is constantly scanning the lawn as it's mowing. So if your pet gets in the way, if you got balls in the way or something, kid's bike, something like that, it will avoid it whether or not you put it in the map or not. So you can set no-go zones where it will miss the trees and the brush and stuff like that's always out there, trampolines, pools. But also, if something does get in the way that's not normally there, it will sense that with all the visionary information it has and radar information it has on board, and actually avoid that obstacle. Here in the back, you have a compartment, and if you open that up, that is actually your battery there in the back. You should never have to touch that, but if for some reason after a few years you need to replace it, it's right there. Also, you can scan this code here, and this will connect you to Wi-Fi from the mower, so we'll show you doing that here in just one moment. And then let's get a width on this mower, about 18 inches wide as well. Okay, we'll get this mounted in the ground, but first, back here on the back of this, you'll open this door here. And these are your connections for your cables. Now, you can either power this, the RTK signal, with the actual power supply from the base station, or you can power it independently. I'm going to power it with that. It's just less wires to run for me. And then you can run these out here, and those are weatherproof connections. And now we can mount this to the ground, and we can run our wires where they need to go. And now we'll take these stakes that actually screw into the ground, and you don't have to use a power tool for this. So now we need to set up our RTK antenna, but before we do, we want to fish this wire all the way through here. So once you get your antenna put together, pretty self-explanatory. Run the wire through the middle, screw the pieces together, put your little antenna extension on the bottom of the RTK antenna, and then make sure you want to get it away from the buildings, trees, things like that, so you get a solid green light. Get this mounted good in the ground so it's not going to move. And then if you have a solid green light like we have here, then you know you're good as far as your antenna placement. So now we have a solid white light there on the charging station. We know we have power there. We have power at the RTK antenna, so we're good there. You can bury this wire if you want to. You can stake it down. Just needs to stay out of the way, especially if your mower is going to be mowing over it. You could easily take your edger or shovel and just kind of cut a hole in the ground and bury that. It's very low voltage. I think it's 12 volts. So you're not worried about it. You can bury that a couple inches underground and you'll probably never have to worry about it. Okay, now we're ready to start up the mower. We have the app installed and it's ready for me to add a mower. But first, let's turn this on. And so I believe we hold the OK button for 3 seconds. Lights lighting up. And I'm going to say start adding. It says connect the Wi-Fi network. Now we're just going to scan the QR code back here. So now I'm binding the device and connecting to my Wi-Fi network. So we've got the AirSeekers TRON charged and we're ready now to build a map or even edit a map. Well, we've already built a map, and if you see we click on here, we can see the map we've already built, but we're going to make some changes to that map. You see we have a map, we have some no-go zones as well, and let's actually edit this map and also add a no-go zone. So I'm going to click the map button right there, and it asks me if I want to edit or if I want to add, and I'm going to go into edit. We're going to add, and now it's saying start undocking. I'll hit that button. And now we just drive the mower with our phone. And you can see while we're driving this, in the map, it's showing us where we're getting close to the edge. It shows us that we're getting near the no-go zones, which are those trees and bushes. I'm just going to carry this on out to the edge. You see we're getting very close to the edge of our map. So I'm going to drive it over here right to that somewhat of a corner. And then I'm going to hit our start button. So now it's going to let me add to our map here. So now we're just going to bring it back to meet up with our existing map. And you see on the screen that it's kind of showing you how it's expecting to connect. And here comes my original map. And now I can just hit this save button. Now it shows me actually 2 different mowing areas. So I actually added a mowing area. I've got A and a B. So I can separate mowing tasks based off of those. Okay, as you can see, I'm over here. There's obviously a fire pile there that we've burned some things. So I want to make that a no-go zone so the mower doesn't try to mow that. Yes, it could probably sense that and steer away, but since I know that's a hard object that's not going to move for a while, I'll go ahead and program that in. So I'm going to go up here and say restricted area, and then I'm going to drive to it, and then I'm going to say start. And then I'm just going to drive the boundary. You see it's drawing as we're driving around here. Say stop and then save. And now let's go draw the palm tree. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go up and say add another restricted area. Drive up to the edge of the tree here, say start, and now we're just going to drive it around the tree. stop. And if we wanted to draw another one, we could draw another one. In this case, I'm just going to click save here on my map. And once that's done synchronizing, we can go back and start mowing. Now from my app, I'm going to go into the map settings, and then you can see here we can either globally set these, or I can select which map I want to and go in there and say, okay, I want to set the mowing height at 30 millimeters, 50 millimeters, 70, all the way up to 90, and I'm going to set it at 50. I can tell it the interval. I'm going to leave it there. I can even set the angle of mow, and I'm just going to leave it there. Priority, I can say this one's first, or this one and this one's second, or I can go vice versa. And then settings, I can even set how I want the mower to turn around if I think one way is more efficient, and then also set AI obstacle avoidance as well. Go ahead and set that on. Click OK. And now let's just go ahead and start mowing. The Tron mower actually tracks very straight with those omnidirectional wheels. Now, when you're mapping, you kind of get the sense that it may not track straight because it is kind of hard to drive it straight due to the fact that there's no steering on it other than from the rear wheels. So literally power to the left and right rear wheels is what dictates how it's going to turn. And then the omnidirectional wheels are just providing a little bit of stability. But as you can see, under its own power, it knows exactly how to maneuver that to keep it really almost dead straight. It may look like it's moving a little bit, but when you look at the stripes when it's done, they are relatively straight. And we do think the omnidirectional wheels are a step up above to a lot of the just kind of look like casters, if you will, from like a shopping cart that may be on some of these other robotic mowers. So as you can see, once it makes its turn, turns around and starts heading up, you'll see that front end shift left and right ever so slightly. But again, looking at the track once it's done, you can really see that it's straight lines. And we know the fire pit was actually programmed in there, but what happens when something else gets in the way, such as a kid or a person or a pet? It will recognize that as well. And then what about even a baseball? Sees that too. Now with the Tron mower, you can actually select 3 different turnaround methods or turning profiles, if you will. The one that's on there right now, and I believe it's the one that actually comes as the default, is called circular turning. And so it kind of makes almost like a somewhat of a diamond shaped type of pattern. And you see it here doing that, pulls backwards and forwards, then backwards and spins it around and then goes forwards. So that's the circular turning. The next one we'll do what they call turn in place. So we're going to go ahead and change the turn in place. Hit the check mark. Should get a beep from the mower and it's telling me that it accepted that change. Now we should see a different turn here. Okay, so literally just kind of spinning it halfway, pulling forward a little, and then spinning it the rest of the way. So pretty simple turn. Now this next one is the inner fishtail. Not sure how this one's going to go, but we will see. Okay, so probably a gentler turn, so easier on the turf on that one. And let's watch that last turn, that inner fishtail, one more time. Now you'll see here as the Tron comes near us and then passes by us, that on the front there are a few cameras. So you see the cameras facing us, then you see the little head popping up above it that also has sensors and cameras in it as well. You'll see a camera on the side of that little head sticking up. See the lights on the front for running at night, where you can see we ran at night as well. And then even on the rear of the Tron, once it passes by, there's even a camera out back as well. So once the Tron gets near to me, I'm going to pause it to show you something underneath the Tron. So once it gets close, I'll hit the pause button. It should stop it rather quickly. Push it now. Yeah, pretty much immediately. Now this is after many weeks of use running through wet grass, dry grass, you name it. You'll notice that as we were probably showing unboxing this, there are 6 blades that swing out, one at the top, one at the bottom, or 3 at the top and 3 at the bottom, again comprised of the 6 blades. But there's also a fan blade up here as well that's a plastic blade that provides more suction or vacuum that makes this mower do a lot better at actually mulching grass than most of your other or any of the other robot mowers that are out there. So it literally creates that vacuum, keeps it continually spinning up there so that these 6 different blades can actually break that grass up, mulch it, drop it back down as well. Now, once I'm ready for the mower to restart, I can just hit the start button and it should start. So what we have set up here in our lawn size, we had basically 2 sizes set up, right? So, and it all equated to right around 10,000 square feet. I think just short of 10,000 square feet. So about a 1/4 acre of yard size, if you will, which would be your typical suburban lot. And again, if you're like the most of America, you're probably smaller than that. Now, we've got several acres as well, but that's again, not your typical lawn size. So, will it handle doing all that with 1 battery charge? No, it won't do that full 10,000 square feet, but that's no problem. It will do, let's say, kind of like we had set up a front yard and a backyard setup. It will do one of those, then return and charge and come back and do the other. Or you could have it set up to do globally, and what it'll do, it'll mow as much as it can, and then when it gets down to 15% of the battery charge, it will return to the dot, it will charge up, and then go back out and actually mow the rest that it didn't get. So it would require 1 recharge to do that complete 10,000 square feet or 1/4 acre or 1,000 square meters. However you want to define that. I think specifically ours was 856 square meters, which again, our calculations comes out to right at 10,000, or no, I think it was 9,200 square feet. Anyway, we're in the ballpark of a 1/4 acre is what we had set up. And when it would get finished after that first recharge or the second battery, if you will, it still had plenty of life to do more. I think it barely only went into like 30% of that second charge. So, or really the first charge. So you had the full battery, then it had to go back and recharge, and then it would use about 30% of that second battery to complete the rest of that 9,200 square feet or 856 square meters. Now here's our recommendation. If you have a lot of dirt or a lot of sand, this is probably not going to work great, but neither is most of your robotic lawnmowers, period. They just don't do well in the sand and the dirt. They'll try to dig in when they try to turn because it's not all-wheel drive. These omnidirectional wheels, they don't cause any issues, again, unless you're in sand or dirt. Otherwise, what happens here is they freewheel here, and as they're angled inside, if you will, as it goes forward, it's supposed to keep that straight. Now, as we mentioned during the filming, is that it kind of wants to wander and drift just a little bit, but when it's under its own power and using its own AI and using its map that it's built in, it keeps that pretty dead straight. Not exactly straight, but once you look at the stripes, they look straight. Now, driving it yourself, you may notice it may be a little more erratic again because you're trying to steer it straight or many times trying to overcome, and it kind of overswings, if you will. But it's not an issue once it's mowing. As far as the mowing capabilities, it does very well. We did not notice any stragglers in the yard once it gets done. Now, let me give you another recommendation. Don't mow when it's wet. If the grass is wet, and that really goes for any lawnmower. Listen, we have a 27 horsepower, 60-inch commercial zero-turn mower. And even when our acreage is wet and we go full blast, it's going to leave tons of stragglers. Same with a robot mower. Not only is it going to leave stragglers, but it's probably going to bunch up in there and it's going to cause an issue. You're going to have to clean it out and then wait for it to be dry. So if you can, mow when it's dry. If not, just expect you're probably going to have some grass sticking up, but the next time it mows, it's going to pick that up and it's not going to be a problem. Also, make sure your blades are sharp. You know, every couple of months, check them. You can sharpen them, or you can actually buy a whole new set for not a lot of money. Pricing on this. Pricing is going to be in the $2,000 range. Now, right now, I think they have a deal for like $1,700 or $1,800 on their website. On Amazon, I think it's still $2,000. So depending on where you want to get it, again, you can get it on their website, get a discount. I don't know how long that will last. Or get on Amazon and you can get it anytime. It's going to be around that $2,000 range. This thing did very well on the turf. No question about it. It obeys all of the no-go zones you set up. It even has its own detection device. It's going to steer around any, pets or toys or whatever's left in the yard. And then even night mowing, it's not going to have a problem with that either. And when it rains, it's not going to have a problem with the wet grass, other than, again, you're going to have stragglers and it might bunch up in there. But it can muscle through it. It will also handle any inclines as well. We actually drove this thing up some pretty steep hills and had no problem doing that. So check it out for yourself. Also keep track of us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and even TikTok. And if you don't mind, hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't done so already. And by all means, if you hated our video, well, give us a thumbs down. But let us know in the comments why. Have a great day and keep smiling.